Okay, so I'm hoping we can see this. It's kind of, well, anyways, what I want to do today is I want to expand on what I was talking about in the last video, because what I realized in the last video is I described things, I discussed things, I showed you things, but I didn't explain as well as I should have what we're going through. Oops. So let's talk about what we're going through. So let's go back to my wonderful ability as an artist. The next rant, I know, but here we go. Okay, so here's our head, right? So there's our head, and then of course here's our aura, our vibration, our emotions, all of the things that, you know, we as humans experience. And okay, and as I said, you know, so here you have, you know, one trauma, here you have another trauma, and here you have more trauma. So it's not really trauma, because what it is it's just misinterpreted information in your unconscious about what happened in your life. It's really that simple, but it doesn't stay that simple, because we as humans, we complicate everything. So what I want to explain with this stuff is that when these things happen, right, this was a closure or no closure, whoops, there was no closure. Here, say you were bullied, and here you had divorce. Let's say here you had an accident. Okay? So all of these things are in your unconscious. These are the things that, you know, these are stored in your memories. These are the things you suppress. These are the things that we create a negative experience from. Right? So now we have a development of our negative emotion. Okay? We now start to see how these patterns unfold. Now that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, because that's exactly what I didn't really express too much on the last video. These start to create patterns. So, let's talk about, okay, so the no closure one. Here's where we have not lovable, right? Okay, so I'm going to erase this because I want to start from a different perspective for you guys to make it more easy to understand. So we're going to work on the not lovable part. And we're going to remember that everything's in our in our unconscious, and our unconscious is now working, not exactly against us, because technically nothing is working against us, but our unconscious is working in a way that we're trying to repair things, but we don't necessarily know what we're repairing. So here we go. So here, let's build this one. Oh, whatever. I was trying to make stairs, but this isn't making it into stairs. Whatever. Okay, so here we have not lovable. Actually, it's better if I did it with something else, but that's okay. So, whoops, lovable. Okay, so this was at 16, relationship. Okay, now later, let's say at about the same time, or say at 18, family drama. Okay, family problems happen, things go wrong, you know. So what ends up happening, and I'm going to redraw this actually because it really doesn't help me. So these are the things that are happening when you're a teenager. So as a teenager, great, things aren't going well, things aren't working. So what this does is, as your life progresses, right, this now makes an offshoot. This makes an offshoot. We're going to go to the plant idea here. So, but the problem is that then it creates another problem, and then it creates another problem. So, let's say you don't deal with these issues, right? Because you don't realize that they are issues at this time. Well, this right here is a reflection of this trauma, right? So something happened in the family, and let's say mom died, right? Someone died, someone got sick, something like that. So this becomes a reflection of this. So this starts growing, and it sprouts. And now this here, this is also the other thing to be aware of, is that this becomes a situation. Okay? And then we have the same thing over here. Reflection. And situation. So what your brain is doing, what your unconscious mind is doing, is it's recreating what's in here. Okay? So you had a bad relationship. Okay, well now you kind of had some fun, right? But then now all of a sudden you want to get serious. But now when you're serious, you're still reflecting this negative belief system. So this negative belief system is now part of you wanting to get serious. But what ends up happening is that your vibrations, basically your vibrations work against you. Now, what we can be looking at is you could attract yourself to someone who moves away from you. You could attract yourself to someone who, someone who realizes that you're not at the speed that they're at, and therefore they run away from you because they found someone else. You start reflecting this transaction. You start to, all of this one message becomes a huge problem within your life. Because the more and more you reflect on it, the more situations that you build, the less you deal with it, the more it keeps going. Okay, so we're gonna stick to that. So you keep going. So now you're stuck, right? Because now first relationship, First relationship. Second, say even third, these all failed. But why did they fail? They failed because the first relationship didn't give you closure. The first relationship didn't allow you to perceive a healthy outcome. Now, couple that with, say, family problem. Say it's, and in my case, and that's what I'm talking to you guys about because I'm trying to show you from my life, the family problem is related to, relationships again, because it's family, it's the people you care about, it's the things you hope for, blah, blah. So, this green doesn't really work. But now, what you see is these two are connected. These two connected create failure because over and over and over the message is simple. I am not lovable. That was the message that I had in my head when I was with my twin flame. That's the message in his head because he used to yell at me because we would start scrapping with each other, fighting with each other, and he'd tell me that his mother hurt him, so blah, blah, blah. So you see how this all turns out. This message sits in your unconscious because this situation in your brain when you were experiencing it was created through misunderstanding. In short, you personalize what happened to you. Of course you're going to personalize it. You're human. It's your experience. It's your life. It's the things that are going on. But the reality is that this personalization, this misunderstanding, because it's personalized, has now created a negative situation. This has now created a block. Now, please bear in mind that I am talking to the twin flames where you're in the runner situation. Okay? I'm not talking to people that are happily ever after, because happily ever after doesn't need to really worry about this unless, happily ever after stops. Because once happily ever after stops, you have to look at this. This is the basis of our lifestyle. This is the basis of what's going on. So you've got this I'm not lovable, and the only way that this I'm not lovable is going to be fixed is if somebody comes along who's strong enough to get you past it, who's strong enough to turn this to I am lovable, to be able to recreate in your head a real answer, not the misunderstood answer, but a real answer. So they need to, what you're looking for is either someone who can correct this message in your brain, or you yourself, which is what I'm aiming for most of you guys to do, to change that answer. Now, some of you can do law of attraction and it's simple, and some of you can't. I happen to use Reiki. Reiki got me into my unconscious. Reiki was the reason I can talk to you guys about this. Reiki is what changed my life. Now, hold on. So here's how this is all working. So here's your brain. Whoops. Brain's a little too sharp here. So here's your brain. Okay? The brain is emitting frequency. Or energy. Okay? But the problem with your energy and your frequencies are, if you have a negative, you will always create another negative. So what I've been trying to get you guys to recognize is that it's this stuff we need to work on. It's this stuff that we're here for. It's this that the twin flames are, created to do. I lost my twin flame because of this, right? His negative, my negative, our negatives, we created a negative, we blew apart, right? So here's, going back to the brain. So your brain is creating a frequency. This is creating your reality. So when you have relationships with, people where you're just simply saying, like, okay, when you say to someone, like, oh, I thought I was bugging you, or when my twin flame used to call me a drama queen, he called me bipolar, he would, because this is a trigger for him. Anything that attacked his ability to control it, it was a trigger, so he made a negative reality. He pushed and pushed and pushed against it. This is what we do as humans, this is what we're doing, but the point is that we are always creating our reality, we are always existing from start to finish in a three-dimensional world. Now you talk about the five-dimensional world, the five-dimensional is the frequency, the four-dimensional is the movement of energy, the third dimension is the ability to create that energy in an experience of a human form. So as long as your brain is creating a negative, you're going to get a negative. Now, there's a lot of people who think that they're well adjusted. There's a lot of people who think this doesn't pertain to them. But guess what? This pertains to everybody because everybody's doing it. Now, what I've said before in the past about manipulation and stuff, I'm not talking about manipulation in the sense of what we see in the movies. What I'm saying is that if enough brains are doing this, right, well, that is creating mass reality. And that is why people focus on trying to meditate, trying to change it, because they're trying to get this frequency to change to bring it into reality. But again, you know, you use something like Reiki, you can do that as a group in a much better form. But the point of the story is that, as I've been saying, they always say you are what you believe, but if you don't know what you believe, you don't know what you are. So, if you say, if it's in here that I am not lovable, that I have anger, fear, all of these things, this is the reality you're creating. So no matter what you do, until you see that message, until you recognize that this message is in there, and I don't just mean through me talking to you, but I mean literally going in there and saying, oh my God, this is true. This message will constantly make your reality. This message is what has made my reality for 15 years. Because I carried this message for 15 years until I found out through fighting with my twin flame. I asked myself while I was doing Reiki, I was like, why the hell would I fight with the one person I love? That came up. When this came up, when this message came clear and my unconscious was freed from this negative thought pattern, every single relationship I ever had that failed came from this. This itself helped me to fail in every single situation that I was in. I took this out, I started working on this. I started making myself look at where was I telling myself that I wasn't lovable. And I have spent the last 6 years of my life fixing this, getting to this. That's why when I talk to you guys, I'm not talking out of some spiritual medium bullshit where I'm sitting there talking to fucking angels, which is all horseshit. I'm talking about actual human experience, where through human experience, I have experienced my unconscious. I have experienced my pain. I have experienced suffering. And I figured out how to end the suffering. If you want to live in, you know, the la-di-da-di fucking rainbow bright bullshit of angels and all this other horse shit, that's fine, live in it. Great, do your thing. But these messages, your unconscious, this is always going to be there. Because until you deal with it, you're stuck. You will always be attached to a negative. And as long as you're attached to a negative, you are creating through it. This goes for twin flames, this goes for humanity, this goes for why our world is fucked up right now. People don't talk to each other anymore because of this. People don't talk to each other anymore because, God forbid, they should be nice to each other. God forbid, but we have stranger danger. We have so many things that are constantly reiterating this parable, that we're not lovable. Knowing that I'm lovable, knowing that I'm who I am, and that I have changed my suffering, I'm not afraid of people anymore. I'm not afraid of situations. I'm actually not even afraid of whether or not I'm going to have enough money and food on my bed, food on my table, because suddenly abundance. And I'm not just talking about abundance in terms of, I have enough to eat, or I have enough of this. I'm talking about being able to relate to humans face to face, whether they're homeless, whether they're doctors, whether they're, no matter what position in the world they are, because I know this is who I am. So I'm not afraid of people. I'm not afraid of dealing with things. But everybody's afraid, so everybody lacks abundance. Everybody lacks clarity. But anyways, I hope that makes more sense, because so long as you believe unconsciously that you're not lovable, you will suffer in your relationships. You will suffer, and you will try very hard to replace things. You will try very hard to find things. That's why when it comes to people who are not actually twin flames, I think it's time for you guys to go find your own boat, you know? Everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to find love. Well, if you're not a twin flame and it doesn't come down that you can actually, you know, have that, it's time to look into, well, actually it matters not, but anyways, it's time for more people to look into this. It's time for more people to look into, well, basically that, because you need to find a way into why? Because your behavior determines your reality. And if that reality is lacking in love, it's because you believe in a false truth. So, there we go.